Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a really fascinating area, the anti-drone market. It's something that's changing how we think about security almost daily, it seems.
Absolutely. Drones have just exploded, haven't they? From hobbyist toys to essential tools.
Exactly. But that also brings, well, growing security worries. So our mission today is to explore the key trends, look at the pretty amazing growth, unpack some of the challenges, and check out the future opportunities in this really critical industry.
And it's definitely critical to understand that tech is moving so fast, both the drones and, the ways to counter them. It's constantly shifting our view of airspace security.
Right. So let's maybe start with the basics. What exactly are anti-drone systems?
Essentially, we're talking about technologies designed specifically to, well, first detect, then track,
Uh,
and ultimately neutralize unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs or drones, that are seen as a security risk.
okay, makes sense. But why now? What's really lighting a fire under this market right at this moment?
Um, Several big factors, really. First, just the sheer increase in drone use everywhere, commercial, recreational, and yes, unfortunately, for illegal stuff too.
Right.
And that naturally feeds into rising security concerns. Think military bases, government buildings, critical infrastructure like power plants or airports, they're all feeling more vulnerable.
And I guess we're seeing more actual incidents.
Definitely. The growing number of, drone-related security breaches, that's putting real pressure on everyone to find solutions that work.
So what do these solutions, these countermeasures actually look like? What tools are in the toolbox right now?
It's quite a mix. You've got sort of the established stuff like radar systems for detection. Then there are things like RF jammers or radio frequency jammers meant to disrupt the control link,
Okay.
and even physical capture systems like nets fired from launchers, believe it or not. But a really key growth area, and quite fascinating, is the demand for more advanced laser systems.
Lasers. Wow. How do they fit in?
They offer a different kind of neutralization. Very precise, very fast. They represent well, a pretty significant step up in capability, and that's driving a lot of interest and investment.
Okay, so let's talk scale. Because when you look at the market numbers, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Hmm.
The estimate for 2024 was just under 2 billion US dollars, right? Around USD 1951.2 million.
That's the baseline, yeah.
But the projection for 2032, it leaps to over $14 billion. Specifically, USD 100,059.87775 million,
It's a huge jump.
which gives us that compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 28% over the forecast period. Just wow.
It really is remarkable. And what's interesting is where that demand is coming from. It's not just one place.
Right.
You've got the obvious ones like government and defense, but also commercial sectors, airports, other critical sites. They're all contributing significantly.
Have things like those security breaches you mentioned.
Exactly. Growing worries about critical infrastructure security, more drone incidents, plus the use of things like aerial remote sensing to protect that infrastructure. It all feeds this expansion. It really underscores how urgent this is becoming for many organizations.
So, taking a global view, where's the hub of this activity? Who's leading the charge geographically?
Well, right now, North America has the biggest slice of the pie, about 35% in 2023.
And why is that?
It seems to be down to a strong collaborative environment there, between government and industry, plus significant government support for developing and adopting anti-drone tech.
Okay. What about other regions?
Europe's also a major player, holding around 30%. That seems driven more by the high density of consumer drone use and the security headaches that can cause.
Makes sense.
Then you have the Asia-Pacific region. It held about 25% in 2023, but it's actually projected to hit 29% by 2024. It's got the highest growth rate. That CAGR is around 10%.
Wow, so the fastest growth is there.
Yeah, it seems so. You see specific pushes in places like China and India to get a handle on drone use near sensitive sites and also to boost their own anti-drone tech development.
And who are the big companies involved? Who are the key players in this space?
It's competitive, but there are some dominant names. Lockheed Martin Corporation, for instance, had about 18% market share in 2023.
Okay.
Then you've got RTX, formerly Raytheon, around 15%, and Leonardo SPA with roughly 12%.
And what's their strategy? How do they stay on top?
It's pretty consistent across the board. Heavy, continuous investment in R&D is crucial, obviously, to keep improving their systems.
Right.
But also strategies like mergers, acquisitions, strategic partnerships, ways to broaden their tech portfolio and their global footprint.
And are new players expected?
Yeah, definitely. We expect to see new entrants, especially perhaps emerging from that fast-growing Asia-Pacific market, maybe by 2024 or soon after. Competition's likely to heat up.
So shifting gears a bit, who are the main end users actually buying and deploying these systems?
The biggest chunk, unsurprisingly, is military and defense. That's driven by, general security concerns and the increasing use of drones in actual conflicts.
Right, that makes sense.
Government agencies are also big users, securing sensitive places like prisons or borders. But then there's the commercial sector, too.
Like airports.
Airports, definitely. Critical infrastructures, think energy sector, chemical plants, and even large public events. They're all increasingly worried about unlicensed or potentially malicious drones.
And these systems, they don't all look the same, right? They come in different forms.
That's right. There's quite a variety of platforms. You have ground-based systems, usually for fixed installations, protecting a specific perimeter.
Okay.
Then you've got handheld systems, much more portable, useful for law enforcement on the move, or security teams.
And drones fighting drones.
Yeah, UAV-based systems, too. Essentially, interceptor drones designed to take out other drones. It's all about matching the platform to the security need, whether it's national defense, securing a major airport, or ensuring public safety during a big event. The rise in drone trespassing and the potential, however small, for terrorist use is really pushing development across all these platform types.
Okay, so we have this picture of rapid growth, diverse tech, lots of users, but there must be roadblocks. What's the biggest hurdle?
Yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting. Or maybe challenging is the better word. The single biggest hurdle is probably the cost. Specifically, the high initial R&D investment and the overall development costs.
Why is it so expensive to develop this stuff?
Well, several reasons. First, the technology itself is just inherently complex. You're dealing with fast-moving aerial targets, sometimes very small ones.
Right.
Second, the threat itself is constantly evolving. Drone capabilities improve all the time, so the counter-drone systems have to keep pace, which means continuous expensive innovation.
So it's a constant chase.
Exactly. And you need to integrate lots of different sophisticated technologies, advanced radar, RF detection, electro-optical cameras, increasingly AI algorithms, and make them all work together seamlessly.
That sounds difficult.
It is. And then there's the testing. Extensive testing and refinement are absolutely crucial to make sure these systems are reliable when it actually counts in real-world situations. Plus, some of the cutting-edge tech, like those high-power lasers we mentioned, are just inherently costly to develop and produce.
So what does that high cost do to the market overall? What are the consequences?
Well, one major consequence is that it makes it really tough for smaller or medium-sized companies to compete. They often just don't have the resources for that level of sustained R&D and implementation cost.
So it favors the big players.
It tends to, yeah. The market can become dominated by larger corporations with deeper pockets, and of course those high development costs often get passed on to the end users in the form of higher prices.
Which could limit who can actually afford these systems.
Precisely. It can potentially restrict how widely these systems are adopted, especially in the commercial sector, where budgets might be tighter compared to, say, military spending. It really raises a key question.
Which is?
How do we tackle these cost barriers?
Yeah.
Finding ways to bring costs down is pretty critical if we want to encourage broader innovation and make sure these important security technologies are actually accessible to everyone who needs them.
Okay, that's a huge challenge. So looking forward then, despite these costs, what advancements are we expecting? What's coming down the pike in this market?
AI integration is definitely a big one. We're going to see machine learning play an increasingly vital role.
How so?
By making the systems much smarter and more efficient. AI can significantly boost the accuracy of identifying drones, tracking them, classifying them, figure out what kind of drone it is.
And importantly, whether it's a threat.
Exactly. Differentiating between, say, a harmless hobbyist drone and something potentially malicious. This leads to much faster, better-informed decisions and quicker response times. Think of it like developing an intelligent immune system for the airspace.
What about combining different types of defense, this idea of multi-layered systems?
That's absolutely essential. Future systems will focus heavily on integrating diverse technologies, radar, RF sensing, electro-optics, kinetic solutions into one coherent, layered defense.
Why is layering so important?
It provides redundancy and makes the system much more robust, especially against more sophisticated threats like drone swarms, where you might have multiple drones attacking simultaneously.
So developing both the hard kill and soft kill options.
Right. We'll see continued refinement of kinetic options, things like interceptor drones, net guns, but also the non-kinetic approaches like those high-energy lasers and advanced RF jamming. The aim is always more range, better precision, and greater adaptability to counter new drone tricks.
And what about the rules and regulations around using this tech? That must be evolving too.
Oh, definitely. As governments grapple with the implications of all these drones, we expect to see clearer laws and guidelines emerge for how and when anti-drone tech can be deployed.
Which could actually help the market.
It could, yeah. Greater regulatory clarity often leads to wider acceptance and deployment, especially in the commercial world. We anticipate commercial adoption will keep growing anyway as industries like aviation, energy, critical infrastructure become more aware of the risks.
And maybe costs will come down eventually.
That's the hope. Technical advancements, economies of scale as production ramps up, and maybe more strategic collaborations between tech companies, defense contractors, and governments, all of these could help make the systems more affordable over time.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We've seen that drone technology is advancing incredibly fast, creating a clear and growing need for effective security measures across, well, pretty much all sectors. And the response involves integrating things like AI, developing these multi-layered defense strategies, and navigating a changing regulatory environment.
That sums it up well.
Mm-hmm.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, while the tech advancements are vital, the companies involved have some tricky paths to navigate.
Like what?
Well, things like privacy concerns. When you're scanning the skies, what data are you collecting? And the civil liberties aspect, too. There needs to be a balance, ensuring the solutions are effective, but also respectful of individual rights.
So it's not just a technical challenge.
Not at all. And as we discussed, bringing down those high costs and getting clear, sensible regulations in place, those are probably the biggest keys to unlocking the full potential of this market and getting these tools where they're needed most.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up. As this high-stakes game of, cat and mouse between drones and anti-drones keeps evolving, what might be the next big, unforeseen challenge? And how could that fundamentally change how we think about securing our skies and perhaps even our own freedom? Lots to consider there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.